Hey, today I am going to interview Jeff from United States. He traveled around 35 countries and he is going to share his experiences in this video. Keep watching. Hi Jeff.
Hey.
So you traveled around 35 countries and what do you think why people travel and what are the benefits of traveling?
So I didn't even know what the experience was going to be like. 3 years ago I started traveling.
Okay.
And I was going because I was thinking, this would be a nice thing. I go and see a different country, try some different food and just try something different, right? And so in 2016, my wife and I, we flew from California to Vietnam.
Okay.
And we started the 2 months, 2 months of traveling, and we completely learned what it was like to get out of the United States and to see what was out there. We had this perspective that was just the United States, and it was that way of living, and that's the only way of living, right? So we got out, and it was this opening understanding of the world is so much bigger than the United States. Because sometimes in our country we think everything revolves around the United States, right? So we got out of it and we said, holy cow, there's a totally different way of living, there's different people, there's different food, there's different culture, and we got to actually experience it and be in it. And I think that what that did for us is what it did for me is it got me out of this shell, this bubble, that this is the way life is, right? And I got out of it and suddenly I'm looking and I'm seeing, wow, there's so many other things to do, so many other people to meet and things to see and ways of living. And I was used to being at home just working. You work, you go home, you do a little hobby, you go to bed, you wake up, you do the same thing all the time. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I felt this when I came home from Southeast Asia for the first time. I said, holy cow, I have to do this as part of my life. I have to go to different cultures and see different people. Like it's absolutely the most important thing for me to do.
Okay.
So I think what I've learned, you asked me what I learned.
Yeah.
Is that right? I think what I have learned even overall the most is that the more you think you know, you don't, and that's good. That's okay, because that means there's more to explore. There's more to see and learn, and that's a really great way of living. I got a master's degree in social work, and there's no amount of time in that classroom that I learned anything valuable enough than coming and traveling. So this is real life experience. You can read about India, or you can read about Sri Lanka, or Vietnam, or you can go. And when you go, you can smell and ask questions and taste, and you can experience and feel. And I think it's a really important way to live life. So it's just opened me up. I just want to keep seeing new things and keep asking questions and keep learning.
Yeah. So do you think tourism harms the earth?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, and this is, I know it helps so much. It's very, very helpful for so many communities that thrive off of tourism. But, there's a couple of thoughts I have. One is, I don't know how to figure out how to beat the problem that we experience with carbon emissions, right? And emissions from flying. And so it's really hard because it's a way to see the world, That's how. So people talk about, taking other modes of transportation and stuff, but I know it's not good for global warming, but I also think where it harms the world is if everybody travels to the exact same place. We don't need to go to Paris.
Right.
We don't need to go to Rome. We don't need to go to the top places in the world. We should go to places. We should give other communities a chance. I think it harms culture. I think it harms the world a little bit when you just spend all the time in like, you know, you have 50 million people coming to like the same city in like 6 months span. It's like, it's too much, you know. I think we need to travel to other places, places that you don't know. Like people should be traveling to Azerbaijan. People should be traveling to Armenia. You know, people should be spending more time in places that are just off the map a little bit. And I think that would probably be beneficial. That's my opinion. That's my thought.
Right. So you have traveled and met many people. Can you describe the most interesting person you met on one of your trip?
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay. Let me think for a second. The most interesting person. Wow. There's so many people. One of them that comes to my mind is a guy named Lee Hein, and he was from Chipat, Cambodia. He was one of our guides, and he had a really interesting experience. He was I think it was kind of like the first experience I ever had really asking somebody from a different country a lot of questions. So this is probably who I'd want to talk about. So Lee Hein, you know, born and raised in, you know, Cambodia, and became a tour guide. And he also like had malaria like more than 20 times. And he has 2 kids and a wife, and he has a jackfruit farm and a durian farm. And he was just putting every bit of money into his durian farm because it takes a really long time to grow and harvest durian. That's why they're so expensive. It takes a long time, and it's hard work. And so I think it was just he spoke a little bit of English that he learned from giving tours over the years, right? And I was just able to ask him a lot of questions like what makes him happy. What's the most important thing for him? Like, what is he trying to do? And his life was really simple. And I feel like life gets really complicated sometimes. And his life was simple. He has his family. He cares about them. He has his neighbors, their friends. He has his livelihood, which is his farming, and it matters so much to him. And touring. And he used to be a poacher. And he used to do illegal things to get to harm animals in Cambodia. But then one day he was converted to saving animals. So he became a guide, and he started to advocate for animals instead of hurt them. And so his was just a story of like, wow, like I can ask questions, learn about somebody, and they have a cool story. They're giving back by being a guide and trying to save the rainforests and community in Chipat. So I think that was my first experience of really meeting somebody and going a little deeper, which was really fun for me. It's because it started that path where I can like, oh cool, I learned a lot from asking questions to somebody. I'm going to keep doing that for the rest of my life.
Have you ever gotten lost while traveling?
Yes.
Very good.
Do you want me to tell you a story?
Yeah, sure.
A little short story. Sure. There's a place in Utah called Buckskin Gulch. So this is about 4 years ago, my wife and I, we looked, so this was going to be a 26, I only know miles, it's about 26 mile trip. Hiking for 26 miles, really long because you take 2 days, and we camped that night after the about 18 miles, and we camped, and it was dark, and we had been put behind. So this is in Utah. This is in southern Utah, called Buckskin Gulch, and it's the longest slot canyon in the world. Goes between Utah and Arizona. Amazing. And so we woke up the next morning and we hiked for 8 hours, and we didn't see anybody. And we almost didn't see anybody the first day too, but we knew we were going to see people the second day. And so after about 8 hours, we didn't see anybody. And I said, uh-oh, something's wrong. And we looked, I had off GPS, no satellite, but it just showed you where you were. We had taken a wrong turn, and actually we were on a 50-mile hike. instead of a 26 miles. So we really freaked out. We made sure we had enough food, and we were hiking by the Paria River, so we had enough water. We had a water pump. We were okay. But it was that fear of, oh my gosh, I am so, because there's no people out there. It's very barren, right? So we had a really scary moment, and if you twisted your ankle or you broke a leg or you got hurt,
Nobody's there to say.
one person has to leave. You have to leave the person, and the other person has to go and get a helicopter. It's the only way out, So it was, it was a little bit scary for sure. Yeah. And then internationally, I get lost all the time, but I like getting lost. Getting lost means new opportunities. So I think getting lost is one of my favorite things to do. Just not in that first story. That was scary, but it ended up being actually like the coolest experience ever. I talk about it a ton now, but it all started from getting lost.
Okay. So what was your best trip and worst trip?
So my worst trip was India 2017, which is why I'm back to make that better. And it was the worst trip because of my emotions. I was really unprepared emotionally. I was narrow-minded. I was shallow. I was extremely negative, and so I made it a really bad trip by not giving people a chance and showing compassion and understanding and asking questions and getting to know people in India. So that was my worst trip, absolutely by far. But now I'm back and I'm having a really good time, and it's totally different. My best trip is anytime I go to the Tibetan regions around the world. It's amazing. So like Kanding or Daga in China, or Sata. These are my favorite places. Tibet, Lhasa. These are my favorite places in the world because the Tibetan culture is extremely rich. It's spiritual. It's unbelievable. It's beautiful. It's sacred, and I really find myself feeling more holy and spiritual when I'm around the Tibetan people. So I've been to Tibet, and I've been to parts of Western China that have the Tibetan culture there, and that's by far my favorite kind of traveling. Yeah, it's really spiritual. So yeah, those are my two. Yeah.
Which country you found very safest?
The safest?
Yeah.
Like every country.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting. Yeah. So from my experience, I feel safer out of the United States walking along the street.
Oh, really?
Than the United States. The United States has guns and the misuse of guns, and I don't know. I just feel a little more uncomfortable walking in weird places. Maybe that's ignorance. Maybe it's just that I'm ignorant, and so I just think, oh, this is a different country. I don't know anything about it, so I should be okay. Because it's just adventurous. So maybe that plays a role actually. So I think that's fair to say. But like for example, Turkey on the government website, the U.S. government website, it says don't travel to Turkey, or it says like really reconsider traveling to Turkey. And then parts of Turkey they say don't travel.
Okay.
But Turkey, I felt absolutely incredibly safe. The people were amazing. And same with Myanmar. That was really safe. I just kind of find that I would say the countries out of Europe and the United States have felt the safest, except for driving.
Okay.
Driving is the only time I feel kind of like, oh, what's going on? A little scared about the driving. And walking on the street, you have to be careful and stuff like that. But the people, I've never felt like people are I feel like people are harmless.
How much luggage you carry normally? Let's say you are traveling to many countries. How much luggage you carry?
40 liters.
Huh?
40 liters.
14?
40. Yeah,
okay.
Just a 40-liter backpack that weighs about 7 to 9 kilos.
Okay.
Yeah, so very, very light. It's been really helpful. It took me 3 years to figure that out because I'd always overpack, and then I realized that my back hurts, and all I ever think about is where to put the bag, and it just wasted so much time. So now I have a backpack that I can carry for 10 hours if I need to, and I don't have to worry about leaving it somewhere.
Right.
So definitely light traveling is 100% the way to go.
What are the things you carry normally, always when you travel?
Okay, I take two shirts, one pair of pants,
okay,
maybe like a swimsuit, just like a short that I could exchange if I'm doing some laundry. And then I take whatever medications I may need for the country, depending on where I'm going. I always take a fan. Because I always find myself on a hot bus or somewhere that I'm just like, I need a fan. So I got this fan in Cambodia 3 years ago, and I always just take that around with me. I always take a sleep mask because I always find the light comes in the room at like 5 a.m. So I always have a sleep mask, and I always have earplugs. Earplugs are like a lifesaver for me. And of course, your toiletries, your toothbrush, and all this. If I can, just a pair of sandals. If I have to, I'll bring a pair of shoes. Just like tennis shoes, and one pair. Just depending on where I go, maybe one or two pair of socks if I need to use socks. And I always have my iPad, which I use for pictures and just to use the internet. It's a little bit better than my phone. I have my phone, of course, as well, so I can do some therapy while I'm on the road, do some work, and then. I always take my journal. Okay. So I have a journal that I take with me everywhere, and I always keep that with me. Yeah.
What was the best, most interesting place you have visited so far?
The most interesting place I have visited? Maybe Albania. Yeah, I would say interesting because I didn't feel like I was in Europe. It's in Europe, but it didn't feel like it was Europe at all. It felt like Latin America or something like that. Yeah. So, I would say interesting because when I got there and they used euros and everything, I'm just like, this doesn't feel right. I don't feel like I'm in Europe at all. So I would say that was kind of my most interesting country.
So, what do you think about couchsurfing?
Whoops. Couchsurfing, that's been life-changing. We started in late 2016. We started to host some people because we wanted to see what this whole thing was about, couchsurfing. And we hosted, and now we've hosted, we've hosted and surfed over 100 times. And it's been life-changing just to bring people in your home. And what I think is the most important thing about couchsurfing as a host is I love to give to somebody because I know what it's like to go to another country and to get to receive, right? When somebody cares about you and they take you like you did for me and takes you around and shows you local things and it makes such a difference to you. We want to do that to people as well. So couchsurfing has been really amazing because it's an opportunity to give back and it's like really satisfying when you know somebody's there to see you and you want to give them a good experience. Yeah, but authentically, just an authentic, not a fake experience, but just an authentic, real experience because you want them to take home stories, and we want to convert people to the idea that people are good, that people are good around the world. So we are just going to be ourselves and show people a good experience and then they can go home and say, hey, the world's a nice place. Keep meeting nice people. Keep being nice. We can change the world, even just one little step at a time. If somebody comes to your house, they have a really good time couch surfing. You make a good connection. Well, they go home, and if they have kids, there's another generation. Then they tell their kids, oh, couch surfing, new people are amazing. Kids start getting this new idea. Oh, hey, the world isn't such a scary place. People are really amazing. Then it goes on for generations. So if we can just keep making small, beautiful experiences together, I think that's how you change the world,
Yeah. That was Jeff. I keep on meeting such a nice people on the way when I travel around India. Currently I am traveling and volunteering in different places around India. I keep on meeting, and when I feel like connected with them, I take interview and post on YouTube. So please subscribe and keep gaining knowledge and information from different part of the world. Thank you.